August 30th meeting to order at 6:10. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you for closing the curtain so we don't have to burn our eyes out. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a moment of silence for all of our APA family and any members present and past who are fighting illnesses or family members who are have passed. Just a moment of silence. Okay. Be a little hard to get in. Dr. Quashie trying to get in the door? That was Quashie trying to get in. I put my phone in silent. We'll wait for. He probably sent me a text, but I put. Lisa, I hope everything's okay with your mother-in-law.
It will be. Thank you.
Okay.
It's over by community. It's on its way.
Okay. So we can get started with the, has everybody had a chance to look at the agenda for the meeting? Okay. The board will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion, additions, or deletions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All four with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the next item on our agenda is public comment, and they're not knocking the walls down, so we will. Ms. Shively, do we have anybody that's wished to have public comment tonight?
Not this evening.
Okay. Okay. So now we'll move into the board transition, and there are 4 items on here. So did you say George was on his way?
George is 5 minutes away.
5 minutes away? Okay, so maybe what I'll do now is just, I don't know if I want to talk about the.
I want to wait. Can we wait?
We can wait. We can wait.
Can we approve the minutes? Can we jump?
I'm.
You want me to stall with a financial report?
I mean, that'll buy us some time.
Yeah,
We
if I
will-
go July.
We want to have the nominations and everything today, David.
Oh,
So.
okay.
I'm sorry. It was my last opportunity to
It's
give you a
allowed.
little
Well,
jab.
until I saw July's figures, I wasn't sure I even want to talk about June's.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. So, well, then we'll move the, I will take the, let's move the minutes up to the beginning of the, so has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from our last meeting?
My first name
From our
is
June
misspelled.
20, excuse me?
My first name is misspelled.
Okay,
There's only one out.
that'll fall in
Fixed
the discussion stages.
Understood.
Okay, thank you for sharing that.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes
With,
the amendment of Michelle's name.
thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the minutes from our June 28th meeting. Any further discussion? Okay, the amendment to the minutes correcting Michelle's name is duly noted, and that will be taken care of. I'll call for the vote. All four with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Welcome.
Hey, George.
Sorry.
Hey, that's all right, George. We waited a little bit. We had a few people that were delayed. It's okay.
And we got the blinds shut thanks to Angie Shively, or you'd have the sun in your eyes,
like
big time.
So Dr. Quashi's still on his way, so we'll wait a little bit. Okay, so we'll move to number 6.
I made a motion to correct spelling of Michelle's name and then.
Yep.
Okay. So we'll move on so that we have a complete board here in place to do the election process. So next on the agenda is the CEO report.
I move that we approve the August CEO report as written.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the CEO report, the August 30th CEO report. Any discussion? Well, if nobody else is gonna make comments, I'll say 848 is a great number.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Yes.
That-
I was a little surprised, though, at
I was
the,
saying,
the,
there's an asterisk there.
It's 8:50 today.
850.
Nice.
Nice.
Get
Doesn't
it.
matter.
Was a little surprised that
It's an
online, though,
asterisk.
only 58.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot came back in person, and, you know, the virtual program, the kids that are in it, it's the kids really that would benefit from
Mhm.
that environment.
Would match things, so.
And we're well-staffed in that area, and definitely it takes care of itself, and so that's going well, but we are very cozy and full around these hallways.
Mhm. Yep.
It's been interesting because, you know, we've got about 240 high schoolers in person,
Mhm.
and we were at like 120, 140 in person over the last 2 years, with a lot virtual, and so we were like, oh, there are people in my classes now, like, the hallways are a little cozy and things. It's been nice to have bodies back in the building and all that.
Now, that will help us financially because for the rest of this school year, the virtual would be 85% of our state tuition amount, I believe.
Yeah, it's 85% of the foundation
The
amount,
foundation
so-
amount, yeah, which is a lesser amount.
Yeah, it's about a $900 deduction per
Okay.
student.
And if I
But
were,
we do get the full
Yeah.
$1,250 for the facility funding for them.
Okay.
Well, that's not too
so if I were, so budget was 775.
bad. Yes.
And part of that 775 budget, correct me, was it 130 that we were thinking were gonna be virtual?
We were estimating like 115.
Okay, so I knew, so with the virtual number being lower and the in-house, it's a double win because we have fewer at the 85%, more at the 100%, and more overall. So financially, that's a huge impact on us, or
Let's
a
see,
positive.
Andrea, did you not once say that on our cash flow statement / budget, that the state tuition line was assuming that we did not account for the 85% on virtual? Is that true, or is my memory faulty?
That's correct. So we use the 775, knowing that virtual will be built into that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, that thing
so-
tends to fluctuate a
stand
bit
corrected.
anyhow, and you can't really
Well,
project
that's
it
what is,
easily,
like
so,
75,
It's a
we
little
have, like,
difficult.
80,
yes.
Which is what we, or 780.
So,
I'm sorry, what are the class limits?
So, class limits as far as class size limits?
Yes, yes.
That doesn't actually truly exist.
Mhm.
The charter, it's a class size average, and so, typically at the elementary, that's between 22 or 23 max. Looking by grade level, it's K through 5 was supposed to be around 60
Okay.
per grade level. Then when you get to 6th, 7th, and 8th, originally they were 80, and then they were moved to being eligible for 88. But then we reduced to the 3 flights, but then we expanded back to the 4 flights. So now 88's about where we can be at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and then high school's unlimited.
Okay.
We originally, our overall enrollment was capped out at like 946, I believe. And then we are now amended where we can go up to 1,500 to allow if we go for APA online, if we would expand that, or if we would add like an earlier childhood program or something
okay.
like that. So we've got some flex, but typically we don't like to go more than 20, 22 in an elementary classroom. We do have some right now that are a little bit more than that. I think we've got some that are like 24. I think we've got one 5th grade class that's 25. And that part of that was waiting to balance out, because typically on a regular school year, we have kids that we didn't know were just not coming back. We didn't have much of that this year. So we're just kind of working through it and everything, but we have, our classrooms can hold, more than that. We've got the furniture, we've got the resources and things. We're cozy on computers, and so we are going to have to make another computer purchase, because we were not anticipating having an extra, 50, 60 kids.
That's a good problem to have, though.
It's a good problem to have, but, and that's built in with kind of when we did that flex on the computer purchases last year. So we can go ahead and make that purchase early this year and, make it work, so.
Now,
It's
would
kind of-
that computer purchase, would any of our grants cover that, or will that come out of our cash?
It would be charter innovation grant money, so out of the $12.50 per student, is typically where we charge the computers. Gear, we've already spent all of it. The ESSERs, it's pretty much spoken for in other areas. And so really for us, one of the challenges that we are going to face as a school, which is an interesting one to have, with that charter innovation money, it can only be spent on specific things, including facility, infrastructure, and technology. And because we have done so many updates to the buildings and things, we want to make sure that we are spending that money so the legislators know we really love this money and we really
we
need
don't wanna
it.
lose any of it, yeah.
Right.
But we have to be,
We sort of infrastructured ourselves,
yeah, to
to jolt, I guess.
it'll allow us to do, especially over the next 2 or 3 years, a lot of sprucing. Now that we've got the roofs fixed, now we can redo ceilings, and we're looking at the big gym next cycle will include new bleachers for the gym. And then we'll also paint the big gym, because once we take out the bleachers, it already looks a little bad in there because the HVAC went out. But we'll be able to update that, so
That'll be good.
that's kind of where we're at on that.
So in the report is an update on the air conditioning unit, the train and whatever, and do you want to add any to that?
Yeah, so the controllers, basically every air handler unit in the classrooms, the hallways, pretty much everywhere requires 2 controllers added to it. And so those controllers have been on order since October, and we just started getting them in within the last 4 weeks, 3 weeks really. And so we need about 147, 148 of them, and we now got 35 in, and then we got 6 in the first shipment. So they have gone, the original controllers, the first batch, they've gone on to our actual chillers, our boilers, all of the big units that we need to control, so that it can start talking to the new computer. And then we did this last week go after the ones in the cafeteria. So we have 4 air handling units in there, so that's 8 controllers. They have done the updates, what those controllers do, because there was like, oh, when we get the controllers, AC is fixed. Not quite. So we get the controllers in, it can talk to the computer, we can start making adjustments to everything, but it can also tell us what updates need to be made, what switches aren't working, which motors are, at the end of their life cycle. Things that we typically can't see because the old computer stopped talking to us many years ago about that, and we can't see it until we go in and pull it out and hope we find the right thing. So this will make it so that we can get new motors in. It already worked in the cafeteria, and so cafeteria is fully operational, but keep the doors shut so we can keep the bot air in that area. But that's pretty much it there. We're on our way. They do expect by the end of this quarter we'll have all of the controllers in. So going into October, we are getting very close to being finished with that. The electrical updates, we are probably about 97%. We're waiting on one more panel to come in. They've had to chase a few things down, but that update went much more smoothly than anticipated. And so that's going well for us, but we're getting closer, and we'll get air conditioning right up in time for heat.
And our hallways are and will be ventilated as well,
Yes.
because that was one of our big selling points, as
Yep.
I recall.
Yeah. So the RTU for that has already gotten its controller. It's just going to each individual unit in the hallways now and doing that fun stuff. But as far as I can remember, the hallway units have not really been operational since we've been here, so we'll see what the computer tells us about that.
Oh, wow.
But when we put the ESSER budget together, when I put for the HVAC project, the original HVAC bid was $1,047,000, and I put $1,350,000 in that pot. So as we need motors, as we need whatever, we've got the cushion for it, and it's covered by the grant. So
Any- Go ahead.
About the security cameras, did you get the ones that you were telling us all about with the halo and all that kind of stuff?
no, those are not cameras; those are
Those were-
detectors.
Detectors,
Yeah.
okay.
And that is on the grant. I should be finding out that's the SSSG. Should be finding out probably in 2 weeks.
Okay.
If we got the grant, I'm sure we will get it, just not what I asked for. But then we'll be able to use some of our other money to help get those. But I
Okay.
do have a walkthrough scheduled with that company on Friday to go over 22nd Street and really start saying, we could put one here, we need this there. So we are in progress.
Any further discussion about the CEO report?
Wasn't specifically mentioned, but if it's 25th Street, are we still tenant rich in concerning the capacity there?
Yeah,
So-
so we are pretty cozy over there right now.
That's good.
And we are, working to do small updates as we go, over the next 2 years specifically. Right now, the people that are on the west hallway, they're the pet food pantry people, and they've got like a thrift shop over there. They tithe 10% of what they raise to us, and so we've been putting that into the food pantry and to our Support Our Students funds. And so there's been a pretty symbiotic relationship. We're getting benefits out of there. The Turn Away No Longer closet, they are busting at the seams and trying to get rid of some of the donations they've received, so they are there. We also, Secret Families of Madison County are using some storage there, and then obviously we have our jet fuel program, and our kids that are doing their farmers market. Those kids that presented to us last spring, they spent the whole summer farming over at 25th Street and selling their wares or giving away their wares at the Anderson farmers market every Saturday, and they really make quite an impact on our community in a lot of different ways. So
They've been working hard over there. I've
they
been over there a couple times as they've been there.
yeah, they are, that is their mission, purpose, and passion, and it has, I'm getting like goosebumps to think about those kids even 2 years ago and the transformation that has
It's
happened.
amazing.
Yeah. So pretty happy over there, and we are going to be running into an issue going into the winter, because the boiler is pretty much done. It's older than most everyone in this
Well, I
room.
think that boiler was done when I was a sixth grader over there. now I think about it.
So, but we're exploring new HVAC possibilities there, looking more on an individual unit for every room, kind of like a hotel unit.
The mini splits.
Yeah, and have found that they are much more economical, but also more powerful and better controlled than what we've had for 15 years. So,
They're very nice units.
yeah, and they're not too hard for us to install. It's a lot of it's just sourcing, and we can do it room by room, and so we don't have to do a big, capital expense there. And so 25th Street still alive and kicking.
Now,
Still
like
having some fun.
boilers, that would be something the innovation grant would we'd be able to use for any kind of repairs over there.
Yeah, we can use innovation grant for that. The problem with the boiler, to just even replace the boiler, the whole system's bad. So
Yeah.
all the pipes and the tunnels.
And then you run into asbestos.
No, we don't. That doesn't exist.
Now, let's see.
Thanks to Alliance and our
1950s.
6-month monitoring.
It
So we
becomes
can
very
still use various
expensive.
grant money for that building, even though it's not actively being used
Yeah,
for the school.
because it is part of our learning environment and part of our community service initiative, which is part of that. It also, because Maddie is teaching a hydroponics agriculture class, it is actually a distant classroom
Okay.
and those things. But as I've said previously, we do anticipate getting back into the building with the littles, and then hopefully moving K2 over or to that extent, because based off of the interest that we have had and continue to have at the elementary, and to go back to a problem Mike's been trying to solve for many years, we need to fix our pyramid, because we have 60 funneling into 88, which then you have seats to fill, but now we very well could have almost probably 70 or 80, a few of the younger girls.
Now, as I understand it, initially, the rights of all state charter constrained us on the K through 5. But now the constraint on class size also is building capacity.
Yes.
More so than, it's not
That is our
mandated.
biggest
I know
restraint
Mike
right
and
now.
I and Lori years ago, that was quite a topic, was how do we deal with that? So we still have it in a way, but not the same constraints.
Well, and over at 27th Street, we did add those 2 modular classrooms, and then this summer, we did convert the stage into 2 office areas and a level-to book room. And it can still go back and be a performance space as well, but we're running out of room there.
And having another building is part of the reasoning for going to 1,500, to expanding our capacity to 1,500. So there has been some foresight, so very good.
Here's food for thought, it's your call, but there's a brand new split unit in the green shed that, because we quickly outgrew that space.
Right.
It's never been fired up, it's never been completely wired. If you want it and your people can get it out and put it out there, especially if it serves the
Yeah.
hydroponics or something that we could tell Ascension that we did with it for the food, you're welcome to it.
Okay.
I've got the books and everything at home I could give you, but it was never
Right.
completely finished, so it's never been fired up, and you could utilize it.
There we go. There's a start.
That's one.
One down.
It doesn't do a lot of square footage, but it would help you
That
maybe.
help in the kitchen or the something like that area. Yeah.
The
food pantry that Lori started, that's at 22nd Street, right?
It's at 25th Street.
Or
It's now
25th now, okay.
Jet fuel.
I say it's essentially the gymnasium, cafeteria, and
Okay.
a little bit of a locker room over
Mhm.
there. So, I know they're splitting some of the space with, Tournament no longer with the closet and whatnot, but yeah, pretty much the gym now at 25th Street is home of the jet fuel. Cause Lori's program definitely grew.
Absolutely.
So
Um,
is,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Nope.
is the building still being used here, the new building then that we have? So it's not
No,
being
we
used?
quickly,
Outgrew
we
it.
used it 6 or 8 months and then it just plummeted when Maddie came on to help me and all these kids wanted to help. We can't, I mean, it just in and out, in and
It's a good
out. and it
problem.
just, it's a good problem to
Yeah.
have.
Yeah,
But Ascension bought that, so I can't like let Jill have it yet till we figure out
Right.
what that is, but we might as well make use of that split unit if
oh,
she
yeah,
can use it,
absolutely,
you know?
absolutely.
Yeah, I had a question about the prime. It's a quick question, but is that a class that's just a recap class that's part of that program? I was just curious. Obviously, I see this a lot at Ivy Tech with challenges with math skills, and I'm just curious how that works.
Yeah, so I'd have to have Stottlemyre pop in to really explain all of it. It's a new curriculum. It's
Mhm.
designed by college professors, and it is meant to kind of integrate
Mhm.
Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry,
Mhm.
and bridge it to prepare it for the upper level,
Mhm.
and to the collegiate level. And so it is kind of a recap, but
Mhm.
also an expansion of those, and
Mhm.
also the skills. A lot of times, like statistics and those courses are those principles of the math
Right.
they don't get to it, right?
Yeah.
Because equations and all that stuff is
Mhm.
hard. And so it's going to tie in some of those things which would be used at a higher level.
Yeah.
And so he has it spread out for a year,
Mhm.
for a whole class, and I think there are 8 principal units that go to it.
Mhm.
And so he's getting, as part of the grant, he's part of a PLC,
Mhm.
and he went to some training, and then he has the people who actually wrote the curriculum are helping him
Mhm.
pilot it. He also did math 137
Oh wow. Very nice.
as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're rocking and rolling. We just got a social studies teacher for dual credit,
Oh,
and
great.
then we have another math teacher that he and Scotty are both going through USI right now
Mhm.
to get the grad certificates, and it's all being paid for by other people. So
Yeah.
I mean, the higher ed tried to say no more dual credits without your masters and all that stuff,
Well, yeah.
and they've had to extend that a little.
Yeah.
So we're capitalizing on it.
Further discussion about the CEO report?
There's lots of stuff.
I know, that's,
I could write it all, but.
that's okay. Okay, I'll call for the vote for the approval of the CEO report. All 4 with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Sound like an eye.
I assume that was an aye, Ryan Lynch?
We're close enough.
Okay. So let's jump back to the. All right, thank you. We'll jump back to the board transition, and I will say, in my 8 years on the board here, we've come a long way in the things that we've done and the financial stability and the people I've served with. We've been blessed, present board included, to have good people here with lots of very good skills. I will say the best decision made while I was on the board, no, Dave, it wasn't the $200,000 we borrowed to fix the roof.
Oh, yeah, that was after all the roofs had already been fixed. I
When
remember
we
that,
didn't have any money to borrow.
Yeah, that was, yeah. so
or
it was
to
our
repair
first
the
year,
roof.
I think with our banker too.
Yeah. The best decision was to do the search process for the new superintendent, in which we found that we had homegrown product right here. So Jill, you've been a blessing and a godsend to us here. It's been my pleasure to work with you, and I'll say the second best thing, but right up there together, is working with Lori and her commitment to, and I know she is in the process of resigning. I'll let her have her 2 cents worth, but some of the projects that Lori has worked on, we've been talking about the food program, the weekend food program. I remember standing in that room back there when there was just little framed up with just like a handful of cans on the shelves, and the students just standing there, and the program that started. The whole 360 evaluation process that she spearheaded, and I encourage you to continue for this year. That's hanging out there right now. That review needs to be completed. But Lori was the one that was instrumental in that. Our partnership with Ascension to get that done. Boardable, the board retreats, and just, I can't say enough about what she has meant to APA and this board of directors. So kudos, thank you, and I've enjoyed serving with you. And not having students at this school, I was on the fast learning curve, and I've enjoyed. I will be sending notes out to each and every one of you because I've got fond memories of each and every touch that we've had during the few years. Dr. Quashie and Dave and I were the only 3 that were on the board when I was the first board. Lori joined us very shortly. I have now learned the difference between calling Lori, Lori, and Jill, Jill. My first probably year was calling them by different names, Lori or Jill, not other names. So again, it's been my pleasure and my honor to actually be involved with this auspicious group. It's a great organization, very well known in the community, growing, getting more and more respect in the community, and filling the mission that it was intended for when we opened this. I happened to be the publisher of the newspaper at the time when they were starting the charter school here, and so I got to see it from the beginning in some of the reporting that we did, and it's come much further, I think, than anybody else's vision could have ever been. So it's been my pleasure. I will send a resignation letter to the board and to Jill. I almost said Lori. So, Lori?
So I've been around since I met Angie and Jill in 2010, and so I've been around a long time, and I've kind of watched Jill grow in many respects, and have loved being, she was my daughter's favorite teacher at a time when we needed that. So I wanted to give back. I hope that I've served well and given back to the institution that I believe a lot in. I've seen other leaders in this role that Mike has held with us, and I think leadership of this role has got us where we're at today. And so I think he is a wonderful example of a servant leader who has taken us where we're at today. I've learned so much from him at the helm, and really missed the weeks that I had to pinch hit for him not being here. So I'll miss you all. I think you're in great hands, and a piece of my heart will always be at APA. And but it's time to move on, and I'm always available and would love to serve if you need me, but you guys are going to do great things. So thank you for the opportunity.
Okay.
We thank you both for the time and the effort and
Yes.
everything that you've helped make this school what it is today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your loss will be deeply felt. You're almost irreplaceable, both of you, but we will get the job done.
You will.
But,
You're in fine hands.
we'll miss you.
So, thank you. So we'll move to, we do need to have a motion. We've been fortunate to have 2 board members in waiting in the wings non-voting board members with Michelle Jones and George Salinas. I hope I pronounced that properly. And so now it's come time to nominate them officially to serve in official capacity on the board. So we'll open for nominations, if you so choose.
Is that in the form of a motion or just simply a nomination?
Nomination.
Well, I will nominate Michelle Jones and George Salinas as full board members.
I will second that.
I'll third it.
Okay. We've got a first, a second, and a third, and really we
Making
didn't.
their own rules
Yeah,
already.
and we didn't even really need a second, so, but that's okay. Any discussion? Any comments from those being elected? Do you wish to serve?
So what's the real?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the pay.
Yeah, hey, all the same.
There's a multiplier on the pay this year, a 10-time multiplier.
I'm kind of happy the Air Force uniforms are coming to the
Any comments? Are you willing to serve?
I'm ready.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'll call for the vote unless there's any further discussion. All for electing Michelle Jones and George Salinas. Did you say something, Ryan? Did I miss something?
No, I'm sorry, I was already
Okay.
when you were about to call for it.
Okay.
I think
all
you're
right.
straightening the plane up.
So I'll call for the vote to formally induct Michelle Jones and George Salinas as board members of Anderson Preparatory Academy, effective August 30th, 2022. All four with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Congratulations and welcome and thank you for your service. So I put some information together here, and just bear with me. I'm going to read through this. There are a number of ways that you can elect a board of directors for a board like ours. You can have a nominating committee. You can nominate from the floor. You can do it by a ballot. You can do it by mail. You can do it by petition. Those are all in the guidelines and the laws and Robert's Rules of Order. So in our capacity in the past, we have just nominated from the floor. One of the things that we need to do better as a board is have a nominating committee to actually go out and seek out, and I encourage you to do that. But at this point, we discussed at our last meeting that we would take nominations from the floor and go forward that way, okay? So here's how the nominations work from the floor, so we're above board and everybody knows, okay? A member does not have to get recognition, and a member can call out a name while seated. So if you want to nominate somebody, you are more than welcome to just call out a name. And I will say, you can do it a couple of different ways. We can nominate for the individual offices, the 4 offices that we have, or we can nominate as a slate. So what's your pleasure? Do you want to do a slate or do you want to do individuals?
Well, do we want to get, maybe the easiest one might be the treasurer's position? Do we want to get that out of the way first?
Do we want to do it by a slate or by individual
I
offices?
think by individual.
Individual.
Individual offices, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Dave.
Oh,
Just-
that's all right,
just-
however, yeah, whatever's the best way to do it here.
So I'm hearing individual offices, okay. A person can nominate himself or herself, okay? A nomination does not need a second. A member can be nominated for more than one office. A member cannot nominate more than one person for the same office or until the opportunity has been given for everybody to make nominations. Okay? Nominees do not have to leave the room during the nominations or when the vote is taken or when the vote is counted. And in our case, it's a verbal vote, so we're not counting anything other than, Angie, if you'll keep track of the numbers.
Gee, they made me leave the room when they voted on me.
That was more of a discussion part of that.
Neither here nor there.
Dave, you are just opening yourself up. As a presiding officer, the presiding officer can continue, even if he or she is one of the nominees for the office, or they can leave. A member can rise and decline the nomination during the nomination process. After each nomination, the president will repeat the name to the assembly and will vote at that point. A motion to close nominations is usually not necessary, but if it's the will of this group, and if we're just nominating people just to honor them, that's okay too. But if somebody is nominated before we hold the vote, please, if you're not interested in serving in that role, please decline at that point, okay? So if any time during the nominating process a member realizes that he or she will be unable to serve if elected, the member should stand and request that his or her name be removed from the nomination. Removing your name during the nomination process is better than waiting after you've been elected.
Good advice.
All right, to close the nominations, we'll take the vote immediately. Okay, and we've chosen to go individual office, and we'll start from the top office, okay? Nominations are closed when voting begins, okay? The nominations require a two-third, the motion to nominate requires a two-third majority for the right to nominate. Two-thirds vote also projects the assembly from any abuse of power from a temporary majority who would like to stop the nominating process. So in other words, we require a two-thirds majority in order to move forward with the voting process. So I'll ask for that right now. Do we have the permission to move forward with the nomination process? All four with the sign of aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? So we have unanimous approval to move forward with the nominating process, okay? All right. So we will call for nominations, and let's start with the role of president. Are there any nominations?
I would like to nominate Ryan Lynch for the office of president.
Okay,
Can someone else add to that?
no, we're just opening for nominations right
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
No, we don't need a second.
Okay, so in other words, okay, I'm trying to figure.
Did I answer your question, Dr. Quashi?
Not really, because I would like to see him. So do we wait until a vote?
We don't need a second
Yeah.
for the
Right,
nomination,
I just
so
look
if,
for names of anybody.
Okay,
so if they've already been nominated, there's not a need to have a second nomination. So Ryan Lynch has been nominated for the position of board president. Are there any other nominations? Okay. So we'll call for the vote. All four approving Ryan Lynch as the, excuse me, he didn't decline it, so.
That's true.
Yeah,
Brian,
so-
that comes with free flights, right?
Friends and family, right?
So Jill asked the question, did he accept the nomination? So there's really not any acceptance of the nomination, there's just a declination of the nomination. So
And Mike's not giving him enough time to
That's
decline.
right, I'm
You're
trying to get this,
Sorry, you're lagging.
trying
That's
trying to get
problem.
this vote in, so,
Sounds like a you problem.
yeah. Okay, so we'll call for the vote, all for, electing Ryan Lynch, as the president of this board, moving forward effective with August 30th, 2022, with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Unanimous approval. Thank you very much. Now I'm out, Lori, it's up to you. Ryan, you are welcome to take over the meeting unless you would prefer me to continue in my role. I know you being remotely might be a little difficult. It's your call.
Yes, first, thanks, foremost, to Mike and Lori, thank you for everything that you've done. I have a moment here to chime in, and as I said the other day, I do appreciate all your dedication to our work and where you brought APA through this entire year, so I do appreciate that. It would be helpful if you could just help out just tonight, just to finish up the meeting, and then I can transition from kind of challenging work.
Okay. I'll be happy to do so. Okay. So I will open up nominations for the position of vice president.
I make a nomination to nominate Elisa Fulton for a position of vice president.
Who is Elisa?
Right here.
Oh, okay. No, I would have done that myself. You know, it's just that I didn't know your name. I've been here for a while, and that's why we need to have those name, plates there. But I would have
I got my
nominated.
badge on today, but it is on this
I would have nominated.
Well, yes, small print.
So are there, Elisa Fulton has been nominated for the position of board vice president. Are there any further nominations? Hearing none, we'll proceed forward with the vote. All for electing Elisa as the president, or excuse me, the vice president of the APA Board of Directors effective August 30th, 2022 with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Was that an opposed or was that? That was just a late, early aye?
It's unanimous.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you very much. Congratulations, Elisa. Okay, the next position open is the secretary position. The board will, the chair will open for nominations for the secretary position.
And I would like to nominate
Angie.
Angie.
Okay, Angie Daly has been nominated for the secretary position of the APA Board of Directors. Are there any further nominations? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All for electing Angie Daly as the secretary of the APA Board of Directors effective August 30th, 2022 with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay.
We gotta give him time.
I'll delay a little next time for you, Ryan, I'm sorry. Okay, so congratulations, Angie. Now, the final position is the board treasurer. The board president will call for opening of nominations for the board treasurer position.
I nominate Dave Ashby.
Okay, David Ashby has been nominated for the position of APA Board of Directors Board Treasurer. Are there any further nominations? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All for electing David Ashby to serve as the APA Board of Directors Board President effective August 30th, 2022. Please vote with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Congratulations, David, and thank you for your many, many years of service.
Well, I'm doing
As the
better. The
board
first,
treasurer.
when I joined the board, I had at least one no vote,
Really?
so I'm making progress.
Congratulations. Okay, so elections are now closed. And the next on the agenda, and I would encourage you to table this and discuss this with the new board, but come to the next meeting unless you want to go ahead and vote on committee assignments and designation of committees and assignments. That's really something that really needs to be done,
I
right?
just need the finance and
We
the
only have,
official-
I think,
Okay.
two
the official
standing
designated
committees.
of the
Yeah.
executive.
Okay, so officially, the finance committee is the board president, the board vice president, and the board treasurer. That's the finance committee. So you have Ryan Lynch, Elisa Fulton, and Angie Daly. Oh, excuse me, not Angie Daly, my correction. David Ashby, I'm sorry. I'm fading, folks, I'm sorry.
We've only given us 8 years.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep my lungs moving, so
Yeah, well,
just, okay, and what was the other one you needed?
Executive, it's just
Okay.
officially designated.
So the executive committee is composed of Ryan Lynch as president, Elisa Fulton as vice president, Angie Daly as secretary, and David Ashby as treasurer. Okay. And there should be, I mean, you should look at some other committees. I would encourage you to look at a number of other committees as you move forward. And Lori and I aren't that far away. I know I have offered to assist if there are any questions or comments or thoughts. I will be doing an exit interview with Jill. I'm going to take her to lunch and just talk about some of the things we've discussed over the years and commend her on her fine efforts and just kind of let her pick my brain a little further. So we'll be doing that, but we do have the reviews to be done. So I don't know, Lori, if you want to say anything about any of that.
The 360 review process is part of our Purdue Qualtrics system, so we'll not be able to, continue doing that, but I can print it off, and there's a lot of third-party companies that do it. You could create your own in SurveyMonkey or, there's lots of ways to do that. So however you want help with that or don't want help with it, it takes a little bit of time because it's a little bit convoluted in the way it scores, but that's what we used was Qualtrics, and so we'll need to get it out of there. And however you guys want to do that with a committee or with somebody who wants to work with me on it, I'm happy to get it to you and help you.
And as a note on that, I've actually been contacted by Qualtrics, and they want me to sit down and they can tell me how wonderful their product is for 5 million things. So
It's awesome.
that might be something that we consider because
It's awesome.
it had, obviously it's got that survey feature, but it has a lot of like HR and other things in there that could help streamline.
You can use it for student data, for survey information. You can use it for, we used it at a lot of stuff at Purdue with projects, class projects. It's got an HR component. So yeah, it's not cheap, but it's not that bad. And I would encourage you guys to look at it and then I can just import it over and you guys can have it.
And I'd encourage you to use the boardable document that we now have. That's a fabulous tool. Please go in and use it, look at it, sign in, do your final reports for meetings, your overviews for meetings, and your reviews for meetings, your attendance to meetings. That's your connection to APA, so please.
Yeah, that RSVP, I think, is important because it's useful to know ahead of time if we'll have a quorum.
Right.
So, I agree with you, we want everybody, that's one feature I think that we all wanna try to use.
Yep. And finally, I will write up a report and share it with everybody from our board retreat with a lot of the things that we talked about, so that everybody at least has some of those notes. And I'm sure, Lori, you'll be more than happy to put some of your notes together as we both leave. And again, it's been my pleasure to serve on this board and then in this role. So I think we'll move on to the next. This is the short version part of the program. And Andrea, sorry that we kept you waiting through all that, but we usually let you go. But we had some people
That's
that
okay.
we had some attendance issues that we had to kind of wait for. But I know everybody's been waiting for the highlight of the meeting. David, you've got some great numbers to share.
Yes, I do. So, for those of you that missed a meeting or two, June's year-end result was probably shocking, at least on a cash basis. But that was anticipated because from a cash net income position, the year-end for 2021-22, we had a $1.2 million loss, but that was almost totally because of a delay in reimbursements. And of course, we had been anticipating that for several months, and there were several reasons. And to review those, going back over Jill's CEO reports, I think she has laid those out for us. The good news is that those temporary impediments per your current CEO report seems to have been removed. And the ending cash position then for year end took us down to $448,098. Now, as I said, at first glance, because that certainly can, let's say, allay some undue concerns. The good news is, and then of course I communicated with Jill that it would be nice if we had July's results. We knew we were going to get paid, it was just a question of when. And in my pre-market report, which is partly, I do that to facilitate discussion and questions during the board meeting. And also I have tried to include some tutorial aspects on that because we do have some newer members with us. But the biggest danger was, of course, that if there was further delay, we could run into a situation if we had a very large bill due, we might have to scramble. But as it turns out, taking a look at July, we had a lot of reimbursements come in July and even more in August. So the official end of the year results, I will go over those once more briefly here. Total income for 2021-22 was $10,545,997, the cents I have rounded up to. And the total expenses then were $11,771,626. And that gave us then a cash net income of $1,225,629 with ending cash of $448,098. And on an accrual basis, now for our newer members, we normally do not do too much in our board discussions with accrual results for several different reasons. However, this time the accrual basis, I believe, more accurately reflected, let's say, the economic reality of our year end than did our cash basis. So if we look then at the accrual basis, which actually is our official financial results, the bank would regard that as thus, and I think Ball State and the regulatory agencies, these are the results that are audited. Ordinary income for this year was $455,670, and then from that we subtract our depreciation expense, which was about $312,000, giving us a positive net income of $144,075. And then knowing that the cash basis results were in such a deficit because if you look on the balance sheet at grants receivable, those increased to $720,000, accounts receivable $197,000, meaning that we've earned them, but they just have not been received by cash yet. And then the ending cash balance is the same on our big cash flow spreadsheet or on our accrual financial results. So debt service coverage, as I mentioned in my report, you might think there was some need to be concerned with the ending cash results, but actually on an accrual basis, 1.72 times, certainly there's no problem there against 1.25. So this gives us a little bit of a tutorial here of what the difference is between the cash basis statements. We use those because our year begins with our cash budget. And so we stay on a cash basis because that allows us to track budget versus actual. And then, as Bookkeeping Plus has been so good to do, when we project our year end, we take actual, we change any projections that we know to be off and gives us sort of a rolling forecast. So, and then quickly moving to July. Now, we got July, Jill was able to get July's, so you all have access to that in Boardable. But I'll just give you the bare numbers here. July net income, I was delighted to see $589,039. Now that's on a cash basis. And our ending cash is back in more familiar territory of $1,046,137. Now, looking then to what we're projecting for year end 2022-23, that will of course change every month as our rolling forecast proceeds. But right now we're looking at about $559,855 projected net income on a cash basis, which for us is very good historically. And then that would put us a little over $1 million. And I think we can do better because we know that we got a lot of additional reimbursements in August, and we'll be getting more throughout the year. So Andrea, I think when we were last together, Beth said that she saw no reason that our forecast, our budget and our budget, now our forecast for this current year ending in June 30th, 2023, should be pretty much on budget. I think we were calling for about 66,000. We always want to shoot for break even. And we were well over $1 million on the cash. I think maybe $1,700,000, $1,800,000. So let's see. And the only other thing that I noted on the July figures, this is something Lori talked about at our last board meeting. Ending collections for the year, active and inactive, were 397,000 rounded up. And I noticed on 7/31 they had grown to 445, and more of the increase was for active versus inactive. So, but then again, that's early, but I think we want to make sure we start whittling down vigorously the active, because we have had very little, if any, success once they go into the inactive. So, Jill, I think I emailed Monday morning to everybody that our current cash balance is almost about 1.3 million. So we're in very good shape, best shape we've ever been in, I believe.
Thank you for your
So,
report.
Andrea, did I leave anything out? Or did
I don't think
I
so.
misinterpret anything? Andrea has eyes like a hawk, and if I make any mistakes on my pre-meeting, boy, she catches that. And
I try anyway.
she thinks that I made a mistake on the June, and I'm not convinced yet, but anyhow, I don't think anybody really looked at it too closely, so we won't worry about that.
No, I don't think it's that big of a difference. But no, I think you have everything. I think you covered basically everything that's going on.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
So we need a motion to approve the board treasurer's report and the June and July financials.
So move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? So I'll throw something out as my parting shot. You did mention it, Dave, the receivables on the $400,000 that we're at, plus $400,000 plus that we're at right now. This board is gonna have to make a decision whether or not to write those off as unattainable, because that number has just grown immensely. We've tried a couple of programs through the years. We've got a good cash flow basis right now. The time is best to write that off. It's just a suggestion or recommendation that you put a plan in place to alleviate some of those receivables, because some of those are multiple years old,
Yeah,
and some of them are double-digit years old.
I think over half is inactive.
Yeah, so there's gotta be a plan to reduce that number, because we're gonna fool ourselves with, as $400,000 is a receivable when we're not gonna get it. I mean, we're not gonna get a large share of that, I should say. So I'd encourage this board to come up with a plan of attack, either A, to collect, or B, to write off, or a little of both, so.
Okay.
my
And Andrea,
recommendation.
you and Beth, we will need your help. I'm not totally versed, I don't think, on how that interacts accrually versus cash, but we'll certainly lean on you to help us make those kind of decisions if we're charging something off, let's say.
Okay, the student fees are not on your financials.
They're not on the financials.
Oh, good,
Oh, okay.
good.
Like I said, I learned something new about the finances even after 12 years every meeting, so.
Yeah, they are not on there, and that is something Andrea, Beth, and I have been talking about for, I don't know, probably a year at this point, and hoping in October that we would have an official, because it will require board action, plan on how to do that. One of the things that we are getting better at, we do have students. We've had an increase in students that would be identified as McKinney-Vento students, which means they're in transitional housing. Basically, we would say the word homeless. They could be doubled up, and if they are doubled up, then they, with McKinney-Vento, then their fees are supposed to be waived. And so if they are foster youth, if some of these students that we have on there that have large balances, they've been in these programs, but we weren't aware of them. So we've partnered with alternatives. We have a joint grant with Anderson Community Schools Alternatives and APA. And so we are working through a lot of those accounts right now to clean it up and make sure that it's truly owed and all that. So
Well, nothing's ever simple. It's a little
It
bit
never
more
is.
complicated than just taking the pin out.
yeah,
So Andrea, if I can understand for my own edification, the receivable is not in our cash.
Correct.
Okay, well,
But
that's good
doesn't it have to
news.
be somewhere?
That
I don't
know
wanna
for
get
sure.
too
I mean,
bogged down here, because we'll be hashing this out later, but,
Well, yeah,
yeah, it does beg the
Definitely run that
question,
through that.
it's gotta be shown somewhere.
somewhere.
Yeah,
and a portion of the expected goes into our income, but that whatever is showing on our student fees line is not even close to
Sure.
what our student fees
Sure.
are.
well, I'd challenge you
Well,
to
we'll
take
be-
a,
It'll be fun.
Yes, we'll
Take
be
a-
educating
take a
ourselves
look.
more, I think, on our debtor situation here.
okay. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve I believe we do, to approve the board treasurer report and the June and July financials. All four with a sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I was waiting for Ryan. Okay.
He may be landing his plane, that's why he's not answering it.
Okay. Old business.
Bye.
See ya, Andrea, thank you very
Wish
much.
Beth, our sympathies on the death, and I hope her knee replacement's going well.
Thank you. Yeah, she's on a cane now, so she's doing pretty
She's
good.
been there before, so she knows the drill.
And
Yes,
Kim, I
thank you
will
very much.
excuse you, or you're welcome to stay. It's your call.
Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and go.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. We enjoyed working with you.
Thank you.
Okay, new business. PTO and the vacation policy.
All right, this will be very quick. So as we are looking at our policies, we had our policy manual reviewed by an HR lawyer. Mike Lacey is a general practice, family practice, and so it was recommended that we have someone who specializes in personnel law go through it. And so we've gone through that, and we have found that with our PTO, as it really relates to year-round employees, because we've had so few of them in the past, there was practice, not policy, as far as extended PTO or vacation days. And so we had some, it depends on when they were hired, who they were hired by, if they started off as part-time and then transitioned. And so for consistency's sake, have examined this to make practice and policy match, and so that it's consistent for all year-round employees. 3 of the year-round employees are here in the room right now.
So what is the practice and the policy that's gonna match now?
So on
I know.
this, I
I'm
can
just
verbally do it.
for our viewing
Yes,
audience.
For our viewing audience. So looking at someone that is under a 200-day contract, they currently get 12 PTO days. Previously, they were sick days and personal days, divide it up, but we just made them PTO. That way, you know, nobody's having to fudge the line a little bit if they're sick or needing to go shopping. So the next one is typically our administrative contracts, and they are at 13 PTO days. That would be anyone from 201 to 220. And then our year-round, which we count as 260-day contracts, they would receive 14 PTO days. In addition, the year-round employees, they do qualify for 10 paid vacation days, and there are also 17 already built in paid days into that 260 as well. And so what I have done with our custodial and maintenance schedules we've gone through, typically with us when we have fall break, you know, obviously we have projects and things that cannot be completed while students are here. And so I've gone through and made sure while we do have that break period that there are a couple paid days for maintenance and custodial to also take time as long as our projects are completed. That qualifies for Christmas break and some of our other things as well. So basically with this, with the policy, it just shows the allocation determination by those contracted areas, and then it talks about vacation. We did put in there, Deidre and I worked on this, that it's requested at least 2 weeks in advance so that we can prepare, especially when we're looking at custodial and maintenance, so that we make sure that, you know, our 3-day custodians aren't all off on the same week. So we put that there. We did put in there key operational personnel 2 weeks before school starts, that not really a great time to be taking vacation. We do have built in that last Friday before teachers come back as a paid day off for everybody, just so that they can have a 3-day weekend to kind of reset, because we run 1,000,000 miles an hour in the summer. And then it added vacation time carryover, because right now our PTO carries over, but there was nothing that determined if vacation time could or not. And so right now PTO is a 50-day carryover, and so we said that a combined 60 PTO vacation balance could carry over. So most of our employees, like me, I I went into the school year with 50 PTO days, and then when my contract renewed, I was added another 14 plus my vacation time. And so next year that'll just roll over into the 60 days. That's pretty much it.
So I think you'll probably have to do an addendum to your contract to,
Mine already had it,
Yeah, we
did
did.
did we do that? I didn't
That made me
remember.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't
already.
remember.
Yeah, so mine had it in there,
Yeah.
and like I said, we had some people whose contracts had it in there, we had some people who didn't. When we
So
went
that's
from
what we got.
multi-page to single page,
That's how mine is.
it's
Just
been,
easier.
it's been a nice cleanup phase, so, all employees that this would impact will get an addendum to current year contract that outlines this is effective now. So we have a couple employees who hadn't had vacation time yet, and so they will have that now, cause they are now salaried for year round and all that.
Okay.
So,
Do you need a motion and an approval for that? Okay.
Question.
Mhm.
That, George, that'll come up after we have a motion.
Runner.
I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve the PTO and vacation policy amendments that Jill outlined for us.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and I will call for discussion.
I jumped the gun off to myself.
So you talked about how current people, you have to have an addendum to your current contract and what's existent with other people. Will there be, when this policy takes effect, will there be an X amount of days that will be allowed per year to be carried over moving forward?
they can carry it over up to 60 days combined vacation or PTO,
Okay, and so if they choose not to use it, they lose it.
pretty much.
In excess of that.
Yeah.
That's how ours is.
Good question.
Yep.
Yeah, ours was 60, but with the exception of COVID, they upped it to 90. This is last year. If you don't use it, you go back to 60.
Yep.
So I just want to make sure we're
That's
all.
pretty common.
Yeah,
Good
and
no,
it
good
was
point.
previous 50, but there was no concession for people with vacation time.
And I've used up virtually all of mine
I did too.
this last month, so. Any further discussion?
Do you have anybody that has currently over like the 60 days that's gonna have to like burn a bunch of time now or anything?
I mean, most of our long-term employees would have over 60 right now because most of them had already carried over the 50. And that's for our teaching contracts, that's for everybody. So,
That would be mostly our high school people, or the long-termers, I believe, aren't they?
we've got some elementary that have been with us since the
Yeah, I've heard a
beginning.
few, yeah.
So they're not gonna like lose it now, they lose it at the end of the school year then, if they don't use it, or?
The year-round contracts, they're done June 30th, so
Oh, okay.
they have time to use it,
Okay.
or bank it, however it works.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure you're not gonna have like, everybody goes on vacation now because you're doing this new policy.
No, they're very, I think there's 10 people that are impacted by this. Because essentially, Kim, Angie, Linda, myself, and then maintenance and custodians. That's it. Deidre's not a year-round contract, principals aren't year-round, so.
Is that paid out on resignation if they, okay, so I was wondering if that was a liability or not?
No, we do not pay out, our policy has been not to. We also do not transfer PTO in. Some traditional public schools or those with collective bargaining, they do have some of those. So we do have sometimes a receiving school will accept our PTO for their new teacher, our exiting teacher, but we do not have that. We are not in a position to really be able to.
That'd be a big liability, that's why I was
Yeah.
wondering.
I'm saying, I am not aware of any charter schools that are under that practice.
And having to cover those down days with $115 that we have in our
Yeah.
contracts.
And
And
still
I
having
will,
problems getting
I will
subs.
mention that Muncie Schools just went to $200
Yeah.
a day.
I almost was
Now-
gonna ask that, yeah.
Here's the asterisk on that headline. They're at 210 actually, I think.
Really?
But you have to be a licensed teacher,
Okay.
either a retired or no longer in the classroom. Their regular sub rate for someone who does not have a teaching degree or license is 105.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
lower
good.
than ours.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's always the rest
I
of
like
the
that
story. Okay.
Mhm.
And they-
Any further discussion?
One more.
Go ahead.
I like the idea that, you give them a little bit of a grace period in order for this to take effect. When is that, since we're voting on this today, when does that take effect? It mainly affects your full-timers.
It will go into place for this contract, the current contract they're in. So July 1st through June 30th.
Okay, so if someone has, say, 10 excess days, they have to use it before July 31st of 2023?
Technically, it would be June 30th, but they would be able to carry them over as well. 'Cause
Okay.
Good questions. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All for in approving the new PTO and vacation policy, please vote with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. So we'll move to any further discussion, and I just have a question. What's the reporting day, the fall reporting day for
September 16th.
September 16th? Okay. Okay, so that's the day that we lock in our number of enrolled.
Yeah.
And is it a 1 year again this year, or is it back to 2?
It's back to 2, so February 1 will be count number 2. So depending how we fluctuate, which last year Angie was able to keep us extremely consistent throughout the entire year, we will be impacted by that. The one funding that will not be impacted by it is the Charter Innovation Grant funding. So it is a one and done,
Yeah,
and it's based off of September.
Mhm.
I did want
because
to
we
make,
get that before the February count, as I recall.
We do.
December, January.
well, we get it, traditionally, we've gotten it kind of
We usually get 2
October and
installments, didn't we?
December, but they actually did a kindness or a logical thing this year,
Oh,
and they gave it to us in July.
wow.
They gave us the first installment, and they based it off of the estimated ADM. I always estimate our ADM at 800.
Mhm.
Front load, and if we have to pay back later, then we have to pay back later, but our expenses are always in July and August.
Mhm.
And so they already gave us $500,000 of it.
Wow,
And so
very good.
I think we're 484,000 would be remaining, but the extra kids that we have right now, that's almost $94,000 more that we won't have to pay back. So that'll
Well,
help.
let's hope they never repeal that piece of legislation.
I don't think it will be going anywhere. This legislative session, this will be something where I will actually be sending you guys some action alerts and things like that. This biennium is going to be a very heavy education funding, and hopefully very favorable for charters. They probably won't be increasing that $12.50, because that's, pretty, if you look at some of the very small rural districts, they're not getting much more than that in property taxes, so they don't wanna, throw up that apple cart. But I think we're in store for some additional funding. It's gonna be a fight, but hey, we've got $6 billion surplus. Time to strike.
Any other discussion? You know what? Go ahead.
So, as you all know, I'm in all the high schools in the county. So my question is there a reason that we're still on the block schedule as APA, as a high school? I don't know, and that's what I'm asking. It's being the only county, being the only high school that's still on that. What's the reasoning behind that?
We have found it to be more conducive to our project-based learning initiatives, and making spaces and those. We started it, we had been discussing it for the last couple of years prior to COVID. We went ahead and initiated it as a response to COVID, but it has been very beneficial for us for the extra that we want to do. Sitting there for 45 minutes, was not getting a lot of deep discussion into, and not allowing a lot of, the projects, the hands-on learning, any of that type of stuff. And our kids, now that they can be in a room for 90 minutes, we're still working with our teachers on methodology, but they're getting more of that one-on-one attention. It's matching more with our elementary rotational model, and so kids are getting more of a small group approach in some areas, and then being able to do more with that. And it does align with what a lot of colleges are as far as, you don't have classes 5 days a week typically. So, pretty much where it is, but moving to go back to this year, on Mondays, we moved to having a yellow day, so they do get all of their classes. And we're kind of sampling that as a way for them to stay on track, as a way for them to get in touch with progress monitoring day, so that could be part of like a culminating activity or assessment, or a mid-unit assessment as well, to make sure that they are prepared for the rest of the week, and the teacher knows I need to adjust my instruction because my kids aren't getting it.
So that yellow day that you now have on Mondays used to be on a Friday last year.
It was not on Fridays last year. It was just if we had an e-learning day or
Okay.
something like that. Now we put it to the teachers. We gave them voice and choice in the matter if they wanted to do it on Fridays. To me, it would have made sense more for me in the classroom. I would have loved to have it on a Friday, end of the week, make sure we're good setting up for next week. But they felt that Monday it would be better to start the kids off that way. We did have some that wanted to do it on a Wednesday. You're just trying to, watch the world burn on that one. But so far, I mean, we're only, week 4 right now. It is helping our kids be a little more organized, on top of things. And it has also given us the opportunity so that when uniforms wear starts, they're going to wear them on Mondays. So all of them will be able to be in uniform the same day. We'll be able to do a mass inspection, and those things. So it's still, we always adapt our educational model for the students we have, and what the initiatives we're trying to work through. Being able to have those maker spaces and actually getting them utilized has been pretty instrumental, and has helped us attract some new students because we have new opportunities. We are very thrilled. This is a silly statistic, but our middle school makerspace last year did over 600 hours of 3D printing. And so for our first year with it, we made a lot of rocket parts. So looking to do more of that as well. But that's pretty much it. I know it has caused a couple
Thanks, Dr.
challenges with D26 because of the way scheduling goes. They had some scheduling challenges where they weren't able to give us the actual meeting of classes until they'd already started meeting. So that's kind of one of the little hiccups we're working through. But
Thank you for clarifying. I've never seen the higher ed model in secondary education, so it's.
So it's just one of those things that sets APA apart from everybody else, and, gives us an opportunity
Well,
to
as I
attract.
have absorbed down through the years, I don't think any of the public schools use the rotational, like that system in our elementary. So I think that would differentiate us. I know that teachers who have come to us from, let's say, a traditional classroom setting, I'm not sure I even know I don't think they had block learning when I was in school or taught, but I know some of them have trouble switching to what we use with greater frequency, so.
yeah, and the last few years, we've been expanding it, so really going into the K-8 model, that's the rotational model. We sent teachers last summer to project-based learning school, basically. They came in and worked with that, and we are starting to see even some of our diehard, I'm gonna lecture for 90 minutes, they're like, wait a minute, if I do this way real quick, So it's starting. We're seeing a lot in the middle school this year, especially. I mean, I know, like I said, we're only on week 4, but a lot of promising things. A lot of the middle school projects and those exploratory classes that we added last year have really taken off. To be able to say, well, our kids are doing forensic science and makerspace and a leadership and a hydroponics class and all these other things that they're doing is really,
It's a great selling point in
Yeah.
the orientation.
well, and the thing with the middle school has always been with the pre-academy, well, how are we different than other schools other than we have CAP?
Yep.
You know, math, science, we've got the core classes and we require the fine arts and we've got CAP. That helped us, but really getting our kids to truly engage, because the big push, which will come into the accountability movement in the high school, is making them have employability skills. We're actually going to be measured if our kids can demonstrate grit, resilience, work ethic, and career exploration. And so now, you know, we're ahead of it because we're starting early. We start with our kindergartners. And so now middle school, they have all the exploratory classes and they're like, wait, I can, you know, do forensics. I mean, we stained a floor once, but we had a mock crime scene where the kids were investigating but we're hiding the veggies with math and science and English skills. And now, you know, I want to go to the middle school because they're going to shoot rockets off, because not only are they doing it as part of CAP, they're going into their makerspace class. They're designing their own rocket parts. Doesn't always go well, but you know, it's fine. Few trees here or there. So
Well, the college is, one of their big complaints is kids aren't prepared. So anything that prepares these kids and makes it, when I taught, I always felt more comfortable with the way colleges did it anyhow, rather than the traditional teaching method. So I think that's great. I think it's great.
there you go. Good job, George.
That's some
That's
good
a good
questions there,
question.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I can go on my educational soapbox for a while.
I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion for adjournment, and a second.
No
All four with
executive
the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.